The Jacksonville Jaguars are absolutely atrocious. An embarrassing loss in London. Here on a postcast, we'll talk about it, man. And there is absolutely nothing optimistic to say about this team.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Jaguars podcast. This is a postcast edition on a Sunday that the Jaguars started out at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time and lost badly to the Chicago Bears. We'll get to that in just a second. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on Locked On Jaguars, where you can find us on YouTube each and every day. Make sure you tap into the Locked On Jaguars page. And then wherever you listen or hear your podcast, make sure you tap into those locations as well. The second half of the podcast, we'll talk about organizational illness and how it starts at the top. Right now, there's going to be nothing positive to say about this team. They got blown out. The Jaguars got blown out in London, 35-16 with a minute and 52 seconds left. I started this podcast before the game even ended. 35-16, and it looks like victory formation for the Chicago Bears. I'm not going to talk about stats today because if I did, and if you got Gabe Davis on your fantasy team, that would make you believe that Gabe Davis had a good game because he had 2 touchdowns. Gabe Davis might have been the person that started all of this foolishness by dropping a touchdown early in the first quarter. The Jaguars look good. They look just like they looked last week in the first quarter. They came out and got to the red zone, and then they turned into the Jaguars that they have been all year. 2 penalties. False start on a wide receiver. I never know why a wide receiver gets a false start since he's looking down the line of scrimmage at the ball. And then that same said wide receivers, Dave Davis, dropped a touchdown on the first drive. The Jaguars had to settle for a field goal. It went downhill after that. The next thing you know, it's 21-3. Everything is going awful for the Jags. It continued to get worse. Caleb Williams outplayed Trevor Lawrence, even though Trevor Lawrence had a whole bunch of drops. He had at least 4, and 3 of them were for touchdowns, and then another one where he had a bad throw. This today was symptomatic of what is wrong with this team. Everything you can imagine is wrong with the Jaguars. If I sat here and told you to find a position group, yes, 35-16, the game is now going final. Find a position group where you're okay. I probably say linebacker only because of Ventrell Miller and Foye Oluokun. I'd say edge, the starters anyway, which they don't look like starters half the time because half the time they're not on the field. Outside of that, that's pretty much it. Running back, maybe. Outside of all of that, man, this team is terrible. And we can figure it out. And there are people that are saying, don't blame it on coaches, blame it on players. At some point, all of that stuff kind of runs hand in hand, right? Because players play like they're poorly coached. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 1-5, and they just lost to a team that had the first overall pick. Albeit it was kind of through default because they actually had their own pick, which was the 9th pick. But still, they should be ahead of where the Chicago Bears are right now. Bears have a rookie quarterback. I want to talk real quick about this free agency class too before we get to the second half of the show, and we'll talk about that organizational illness that's going on. I looked at this free agency class. It was supposedly the last class where they were going to go pedal to the metal, foot all the way to the floor in free agency. I don't think one of those people that they picked up in free agency has helped this team at all. Okay, Davis didn't help. Ronald Darby didn't help. Only thing they helped this team do was lose. Eric Armstead does not look like the same guy, and I wonder why a guy of his stature got the contract that he got. Now, I guess you have to really watch the tape to see why he was such a bargain on the free agent, during free agency. Darnell Savage ain't been no Savage at all. What did they do? This team goes out and gets all of these bargains, and then they roll them out here every week. 7 different people touch the ball on the first drive. And as long as the team is moving, all of that stuff works. I mean, you got Evan Ingram back. You got Christian Kirk back. Brian Thomas Jr. caught a pass. You used all 3 running backs, and then you used a couple of tight ends. There's so many people touching the ball. You would think that this marvelously versatile team with all of these parts would win. But then the opponent is constantly just playing the hits. They're throwing to their number 1 wide receiver. They're giving the ball to their number 1 running back. They're throwing the ball to the number 1 tight end. And they're beating you with their best players. And then you roll over on defense and you look up in critical junctures and you see your best players on defense on the sideline. Because the Jaguars obviously just have all of these great linemen, guys that you don't even know their names. Or I do, because I got a roster right here in front of me. But a whole bunch of dudes where you don't even know their name. But because they told you that Tyler Lacey and they told you that Ezisi Otomawayo and all of these other guys are really good rotational pieces, but they're continuing to get beat and they lose. At some point, the people that you pay all the money to are the ones you need to be leading your team. You're hiding something. What are they hiding? And I'm going to tell you in the second half of this podcast, I think I know what it is. This organization is sick. And the sickness is everyone keeps wanting them to find a coach that are going to coach up these particular guys or coach up the guys that Trent Baalke has given them every single week. When maybe the problem is all of it, including him. This team needs to stop giving Tylenols out to a team that's all broken up. This ain't time to go visit your primary care physician. This is time to get in the chopper and life flight yourself or get life flighted to a trauma unit. That's how bad this is. You can't keep patching this stuff up. And hopefully Shad Khan learns that. We'll talk about Shad Khan learns that. We'll talk about that and more in the second half of the postcast. Here as the Jaguars fall 35-16 to the Chicago Bears and fall to 1-5 for the season. Today's postcast is sponsored and brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, man. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even though you're looking all over the place. Some people aren't even actively looking and searching for a new job, but they might be open to a perfect role, because on any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users, they don't visit other leading job sites. And I know how it is to have all of these things you're doing when you're trying to open a business and you forget that you have to hire people. Well, LinkedIn will do it for you. All you got to do is post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of doing therapy or getting therapy for anything, please consider giving BetterHelp a try. BetterHelp has helped me through a lot of tough situations, man, dealing with pain management, feeling guilty that I can't get out here and crawl around with my 2 beautiful grandchildren. Loss of life, of course, is inevitable for all of our families. And sometimes you just need a little bit of help getting back on your square, man. You lose a little bit of yourself and you don't know how to get back. Well, BetterHelp can help you do that. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp/lockedon. That's help, HELP.com/lockedon for 10% off your first month. All right, segment 2 here on the postcast. And listen, man, we just got to get to it. I'm not giving out any stats. I'm not talking about time of production. I'm not talking about completion percentages. It's just time for where the rubber meets the road here. And Shad Khan gave a interview, a one-on-one exclusive interview with my man Demetrius Harvey, who you've seen here on Locked On Jaguars before. He's a beat writer for Jacksonville.com and Florida Times Union. And he gave a vote of confidence to the staff. He gave a vote of confidence to the staff and to the players. In that situation, what else is he supposed to do? If he comes out and says something funky and then they go out and play funky today, then everybody would say, well, the owner basically told him he doesn't believe in him, so everybody kind of quit and gave up. He did what he was supposed to do. He's not supposed to come out and say anything, especially after a win. He's supposed to say that you believe in him and give him a vote of confidence. But if he saw what we saw today, there's no way in the world Shad Khan should still be believing in this whole thing. And we can sit here and pull our hair and fight each other and scratch each other in the eye and talk about whether it's press, whether they use Mike Caldwell as a scapegoat, whether it's Doug, whether he needs to take over play calling, whether he has too much of a friendly relationship with Press Taylor and Phil Rauscher, whether or not Ryan Nielsen stinks all of a sudden and nobody's ever said that about him, but all of a sudden he gets here. Or we can really just look at it for what it really is. All of it from the team building aspect. It doesn't mean that all the players are terrible, but from a team building aspect to how it all fits together, to constantly going out and trying to find a coach that it's like having a bunch of ingredients that don't match and then going on Food Network, getting Bobby Flay and then getting Emeril Lagasse and say, okay, who can make something out of this? This ain't Top Chef. This ain't where you know, one of those cooking shows where they just give you some mystery bag of ingredients and you just go out here and start cooking. No, that's not the way this is supposed to work. This is supposed to work where your GM builds a competent scouting department and also hires the right coach to manage, lead, and be the face of this team. From that point forward, there's a connection that goes to the quarterback, who is the ultimate on the field extension of management. With that, with sound drafting, with sound infrastructure, with making sure weapons are added, with a competent offense and a staff that the head coach constantly coaches, and the coaches then constantly coach the players, and everybody holds everyone accountable. That's the way this is supposed to run. Not always just having a dirty kitchen and trying to find someone to fix it. This is why Shad Khan, a long time ago, even in 2020, 2021, whenever it was, he needed to wipe the slate totally clean. Even when Urban Meyer left, he should have wiped it clean again with Trent Baalke, but he did not do it. And what the Jaguar fans are facing and doing right now is this is the handiwork of the general manager, not only with his picks, not only with the free agency, but the direction of the franchise. It all falls on him. This isn't me cherry picking, and this isn't me letting guys off the hook. This is just the ultimate form of responsibility. What was that movie, Heartbreak Ridge, when Clint Eastwood went and Mario Van Peebles and the Swede and all of them, and they were a terrible unit, and then he turned them all the way around. But that's how this is. Leadership works like that. When there is dysfunction, you point to the person that coaches it, allows it, builds it, and sets the atmosphere. There's nothing else to say about it. This will never work with Trent Baalke running this organization. That probably means for me, so everybody wants me to be definitive in what I do. I start right now trying to figure out who I'm gonna get in here to run this organization. I'm talking about from the top all the way down, man. Whether it be a combination of an EVP, an executive vice president, with a GM, but they will all be in lockstep. They will all be in lockstep. And then they'll find a coach that has their vision, and they will be in lockstep with him. We have seen examples of it from around the National Football League, where when you do this correctly, and there you don't start the organization off with a guy nobody wants to work with, and then use him to let him sabotage who you're going to hire as a coach. You have to get people in here that aren't in it for themselves, that aren't in it to prove how nice they are with what they're doing. Man, I'm telling you, that is what's going on with this team. And they're going to continue to suffer until Shad Khan figures that out. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, maybe he's the problem. Yeah, but you got $3.5, $4 million you're going to buy the team from him? Because he ain't going to fire himself. There's a lot of owners that pick the wrong people to run stuff. I don't think the way Shad functions is totally bad. If he gets the right people in here and he gives them all the resources that he's given everybody else and he just gets out of the way, that'll be fine. But until then, the Jaguars are going to continue to suffer. Right now, they're going to pick first or second in the draft. They better beat New England next week, because if they don't, they're probably guaranteed to pick number 1 in the draft overall. It's sad. Very, very sad. This team needs an overhaul at several position groups, and it's just a bad look right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A super bad look for this organization. I want to apologize to the fans, but I ain't got nothing to apologize for, because it ain't my fault. It ain't. It's not y'all's fault either. Shad believes in the wrong people, and they got to go. Blow it up. This organization is sick. And like I said, it's not go visit your primary doctor sick. It is trauma unit sick. It is like, no, he needs to go to ICU right now. That's how sick they are. Make sure you tap into Locked On Jaguars each and every day, wherever you get your podcast. Also tap into Locked On NFL. You get a double dose of Locked On NFL each and every day. Tyler Rowland, the madman, early in the morning, and me, Tony Wiggins, in the barbershop in the middle of the day. Make sure you make those your first and second listen each and every day. We're going to talk more tomorrow about Shad and what he needs to do. I may even build a little list of, before we get to coaches, I may start building a list of GMs. I think I'll start doing that and explain what kind of people I think they need to run this organization. All right, man, we'll talk to you later on Locked On Jaguars. Thank you for joining the postcast. Take care of each other, and we'll do the same.